Could I interest you in a whole lot of games that have come out recently or will come out in the near future? Now, I know, Steam Next Fest has been over by a few weeks at this point, but truthfully, I still had a lot of demos downloaded that I wasn't able to play, and some of them were looking really good. I wasn't able to play even 10% of what I had because I sort of rushed to get the other video out. My bad. Thankfully, not all demos are pulled from the air as soon as the festival ends. Personally, I think it's a good idea to let people try out your game for a little bit longer, unless you're in really early development. This time around, I'm gonna show a lot more games than the first time. Since there are so many, I won't even bother trying to order them around myself. I'll just go in good old alphabetical order. So, let's get this show on the road. Welcome to Strig's Game Café, everyone. Have a cup of Steam Next Fest. As far as Souls-likes go, I don't think I've played any as unforgiving as Abyssal Blade recently. Why? Well, mainly because one hit is all you get. Abyssal Blade is a boss rush top-down Souls-like developed by Viper Games. According to its Steam page, its bosses are inspired by the 5 stages of grief, the first one of which is fought in the demo and is inspired by MMO raid mechanics. Both are things I could clearly see in the boss present in the demo, with its attacks being telegraphed by name, timer, and area of effect that appear beforehand. Even with all those visual hints though, it will likely still take you a few tries to get past, with the bosses essentially being one big memorization game. To fight back, you have 2 attacks, a weaker but faster one, as well as a slower but stronger one. Additionally, you have a gauge that can be charged either manually or by hitting enemies. When full, you can enter a powered up state that makes your attacks faster and stronger. Overall, Abyssal Blade seems like the kind of game that is easy to learn but hard to master. Also, as a final note, I love that I could talk to the boss I just beat after the end of the demo. Abyssal Blade is actually out now. If you want a game that mixes sci-fi and fantasy, check out Adventure of Samsara, developed by Elex Games. Adventure of Samsara is a pixel art Metroidvania Souls-like, where you control a resurrected hero in a quest to defeat 3 evil necromancers. The combat seems, admittedly, a bit simple, with only a basic sword attack, dodge and parry, but you can obtain new skills with gems you scavenge from dead enemies, and the demo does tease some additional weapons besides the sword and shield. I will say the contact damage hitbox on the demo's boss was a bit bullshit though. The platforming takes a while to get used to, as the character feels a bit heavier in the air, which I suppose is only natural given the suit of armor, but once I did, I found the climbing mechanic to be a fun way to traverse areas. For your traditional Metroidvania upgrades, I like the Luximeter, that's the electric lamp thing around your character. You control it separately to burn obstacles and power machines. While it was introduced a bit late to see much use, it does look like an interesting puzzle mechanic. Finally, I want to mention the world building because I think it's really cool. You've got medieval style armor and weapons combined with high-tech doors, interfaces, and puzzle devices. Now obviously I know it's nothing new per se, but I have to give credit whenever this combination is done well. The world building combines dragons, astronauts, necromancers, alien-like beings, and a lot of other stuff. Adventure of Samsara's release date is set to coming soon. One roguelike that is definitely on my watch is Ascend to Zero by Flyway Games. For one, it looks really good, with the style being kinda reminiscent of MapleStory 2 for those who played that game. Plus, voice acting. Secondly, it has a really neat storyline and mechanics. Here's how it goes. You play as the only survivor of a calamity that killed literally everyone. However, thanks to a time machine, you can now go back to the past, and you then have 30 seconds to save everyone. This plays out with every run being set on a short timer. Every room you come across has enemies at a certain level, and your weapons will attack them automatically, bullet heaven style. Your main abilities are a dash that is also a dodge, as well as pausing time. You can pause time indefinitely, though your weapons won't attack while time is paused. Essentially, this means you can kill some enemies, get some experience to level up, then go to any further room you see fit, provided your level is high enough to fight the enemies and bosses there. If you die, or if time runs out, you return to your home base where you can buy new playable characters, starting weapons, and also use your coins to invest in buffs for your next run, like making the time last longer than 30 seconds, or increasing how many coins you get in the next run. I think the mark of a good roguelike or roguelite is when you realize that after losing several consecutive runs, you think to yourself, just one more. And Ascent to Zero definitely hits that mark. Honestly, I feel like I barely scratched the surface of this game, and I can't wait to travel back in time again. Ascent to Zero's release date is set to coming soon. If you like Metroidvanias but want a shorter experience, then keep an eye out for Auridia by Norseborg Games. Auridia is a pixel art Metroidvania focused on the exploration aspect of the genre, with pretty much no demo time being dedicated to combat from what I played. Rather, the fun here is all on the platforming and the things you can do by jumping, using a torch to light your way, using a grappling hook to swing around, and redirecting explosives with telekinesis to blow up walls. The game is set in the titular city of Auridia, where the main character's grandfather went to explore, never to be seen again. You explore these vast underground chambers, meet interesting characters, and uncover relics of the past. Honestly, I really like this more atmospheric take on a Metroidvania. It is definitely more slower paced, but the emphasis on exploration fits the theme of exploring an abandoned ancient city really well. Plus, the pixel art style used here works nicely with the lighting effects, and in a weird way, kinda helps give the feeling the civilization of the Auridians is ancient with their strange glows and lights, and that these caves are massive thanks to the multiple layers of background parallax. Auridia's release date is set to the third quarter of 2025. Away from Home by Squishy Studio, which has a demo humorously named just Home, should probably be on your radar if you're looking for an RPG with Earthbound vibes. And while calling it an RPG isn't wrong, calling it turn-based wouldn't be right. Rather, it's a rhythm-based RPG. Each enemy has their own melody, kinda like what Mother 3 did with rhythm-based attacks, except here the entire fight is a rhythm game. On paper, it's very simple. Yellow beats are your actions, which can be used for regular attacks, special attacks, or using items, while red beats are enemy attacks that have to be blocked. It starts off easy but gets chaotic really fast. Even against regular enemies, I felt like I could just not take my eyes off the bar for even a second. This unusual gameplay style is also complemented by the highly detailed pixel art and the incredibly strange world building. The demo itself doesn't have anything too weird, but the trailer that plays after it shows things that are, I guess, otherworldly is the best adjective to use here. Plus some horror elements here and there, though nothing too graphic from what I could see. One final detail that I'm not sure about, but I'd like to leave the question in the air if any other players or the devs come across this. The game just would not register in OBS when I tried to record it. Neither game capture nor window capture worked. I had to record my whole monitor for this. So, you know, maybe something that could be looked at. Away from Home is set to release on October 22nd, 2025. For a more platforming-centric take on a Metroidvania, Ayna Shattered Truth by Designmatic was a game that caught my eye. It's a very pretty game that centers around a girl, Sai, who's going to something called a mask ceremony. I like how the game has a very mystic feel to its environment. It immediately gives me Ori and the Blind Forest vibes, if we're keeping with the Metroidvania genre. You meet a lot of strange characters along the way, with some of these meetings being incredibly brief. There's a real sense that this forest is inhabited by a lot of alien beings, and I like how the game never really tries to explain it via exposition. This world just is. Gameplay-wise, things are mostly centered around platforming mechanics, the demo providing me with a dash, wall jump, and double jump. The movement feels tight, and it's really nice to see Skyscape fluttering as she walks, dashes, or jumps. I do have a major complaint though, and that's the controller support. I play using a PS4 controller and the button HUD icons were never really right. Like here, it appears to be telling me to use the right analog to dash, while in reality it should be R2. Same for interactions, which are performed with the circle button, or B in an Xbox controller, even though the game indicates the D-pad. I do hope this gets fixed in the full game, but otherwise I think Ayna Shattered Truth is worth checking out. The release date for Ayna Shattered Truth is yet to be announced. If you're feeling nostalgic for the N64 era Zelda games, then Azaran, Islands of the Jinn by Benji might just scratch that itch. Controlling the hero Zaid, you explore ancient structures filled with treasures, new items to add in your exploration, and of course, enormous abominations for you to defeat. As should have become obvious by the setting, Azaran is inspired by the Arabian Nights, and while not a lot of lore is explored in the demo, what little is shown hints that world building will play a big part in this game. In terms of mechanics, it doesn't really stray too far from the more traditional Zelda stuff, like sword fighting, arrows, and bombs, but the uses provided by these mechanics are interesting and intuitive. It's always the little things that make it for me, like being able to blow up these giant boulders after getting the bombs, or this completely optional puzzle with the arrows. Visually, the game obviously draws from a lot of the 90s era adventure games, but clearly a lot smoother to keep up with the times. It has a lot of details like the fluid enemy animations, these indestructible pots turning when you strike them, or the statue opening its eyes when activated. I know the demo only has the first dungeon of the game, but even so it left me with a feeling of wanting more. The release date for Azaran Islands of the Jinn is yet to be announced. Okay, how do I even describe this one? Alright, I think I got it. You know the good old SFM or Gary's Mod animations like Gorgeous Freeman and the like? Good lord, 10 years ago! I'm really getting old. My point is, Baby Steps feels like playing one of those animations, but instead of using characters from TF2 or Half-Life, it's an original IP. I know many will find this assertion to be strange, but it's the kind of thing that needs to be felt by playing the game.
Wait up, Nathan. Jim.
Yeah, no, I remember.
From the cave, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I feel like we got off on the wrong foot.
Now, you might have noticed I left out Baby Steps' genre. Well, Baby Steps can be described as an open-world walking simulator. And I mean this in the most literal way possible. The mechanics of this game are: you use the triggers of your controller to lift up your left and right foot, respectively. Then, once you have one foot up, press the analog stick to move it forward, then let go of the trigger to put your foot down and walk. Congratulations, you've learned to play Baby Steps. And if you're wondering who the insane minds behind this masterpiece are, they are none other than Gabe Cozillo, Max Bock, and Bennett Foddy from Ape Out, and the latter also from Getting Over It. So basically, it falls in line with being a game that follows a really weird control scheme and has an even weirder sense of humor to boot.
Let's get this underway.
What are your...
Stick out your foot.
Yeah, okay, like this?
Yeah, let's size you up.
Yeah, it's like, I'm like a 13.
Size you up. I think probably a kid 7 with socks. You got any socks?
I was hoping you...
Not a sock store, mate.
I think, well, 12. I'm at least a 12.
Oh, you're 12?
No, I'm not 12 years old. I have 12 shoes. No, sorry, I don't have 12 shoes. I'm 12.
Where have you got them stowed, I wonder?
No, 0 shoes.
which naturally means it's right up my alley. The physics-based walking will naturally trip you up sometimes, or most of the time, and it's definitely not a fast-paced game, that's for sure. Even so, I had fun finding the little interactions by exploring, and if getting over it is any indication, I'll probably end up finding this more enjoyable than it had any right to be. Baby Steps launches on September 8th, 2025. Are you a fan of Breakout? Are you a fan of bullet heaven games? Are you a fan of roguelites? Do you like killing demons using your balls? That last one came out wrong. Ball X Pit, or maybe just Ball Pit, I'm still not sure if you're meant to pronounce the X, by Kevin Sun, is all of those things. It starts out with this cutscene that manages to be both stupidly epic and epically stupid. Balbilon. Who even comes up with these things? Anyway, your goal is to explore the depths of the lost city of Balbilon in search of its lost treasures. The gameplay is a mix of Breakout and Space Invaders, with enemies acting as the blocks and slowly inching towards you. If you get too close or they reach the bottom, you lose HP, and if you lose all your HP, the run is over. To break enemy blocks, you need to use these special balls. They serve as this game's weapons, or spells that you gain by leveling up, like in other roguelites or bullet heavens. Each ball has special properties, and you have to aim them carefully to do maximum damage to all those rows and columns of enemies. At certain points, you can also fuse your balls to get stronger ones with combined effects, and also open up your inventory to get more new balls. By the end of your run, you should be able to destroy absolutely everything in your path, as preparation for the boss fight. In terms of visuals, this game is an absolute party on your screen. The kind of party where you stop trying to understand what's happening at a certain point. For better or worse, the lack of visual clarity is kind of a staple of bullet heavens. The game also has a base building element with the ability to place tiles around that grant you resources when collected. You can do so by, you guessed it, bouncing your workers around like balls. Okay, let's wrap this up, I'm tired of saying balls at this point. Ball X Pit launches in 2025. So here's a question. How good is your sense of rhythm? Because Bits and Bobs by Tempo Lab Games is here to test it. Bits and Bops is a rhythm minigame collection in the style of Rhythm Heaven, with a beautifully hand-drawn cartoony art style. You bop to the beat with these catchy tunes in different games that are sure to push your musical abilities, especially if you're like me and prefer coordinating visuals with audio for rhythm games. Whenever I was getting too comfortable with the rhythm, Bits and Bops found a way to spice things up. Now, I'm hardly the most musically inclined person, so maybe the genre aficionados will tell me I'm wrong, but overall the experience felt pretty solid, and the game does advertise itself as having fast response times. Plus, the cozy and cheerful atmosphere did put a big smile on my face, especially in this minigame with the two birds. Bits and Bops will launch in the third quarter of 2025. For the fans of retro puzzle platformers, I have to say that Cats Catching Mice by Bunshin was a nice experience. As the title implies, you play as a cat navigating a 2D environment in search of mice, so you can collect their souls? Damn, I didn't know cats were that hardcore. This one even uses a sword to hunt. Jokes aside, it's a very simple game mechanically, but you can't be too impatient because while catching mice as a puzzle is the focus, there are still enemies and obstacles that will kill you, forcing you to try the same room again. Oh yeah, and this game isn't level based like a lot of puzzle platformers out there. I could pretty much explore at my own pace after a certain point in the demo. Plus, even though there was only one song in the entire demo, it was pretty catchy. Cats Catching Mice, or I guess Cats Catching Mice, the Black and White Void, as is the game's full title, has its release date set to coming soon. Oh, now this one's interesting. Are you into gambling? How do you feel about gambling for your life? In CloverPit by Panic Arcade, you're gonna do just that. The game, which advertised itself in its Steam page as both a debt simulator and the demonic love child of Balatro and Buckshot Roulette, is a roguelike game about gambling. Spin the slots, earn some coins, and hopefully pay your debt with them instead of, you know, with your blood. As you play the slots, you also earn tickets that can be used to purchase power-ups to make you earn more money as you line up those images on the wheel. Some make you luckier if you haven't got anything the previous row, others increase the value of certain images, you know, the standard roguelike fare. Though I have to say, I did like how easy this was to pick up and play, precisely because it's a roguelike that relies on luck, arguably even more than skill. You might die a lot, but you surely release that dopamine while you're at it. Just don't expect to get any soccer players or waifus like the other gambling simulators out there. CloverPit has its release planned for 2025. Full disclosure, most racing games outside the Mario Kart subgenre are typically not for me. I'm happy to say that Crescent County by Electric Saint seems to be an exception to this. The whole premise of this game is that you ride a motor broom, which is exactly what it sounds like, a fusion of a motorbike and a witch's broom. You then explore a world that is described as witch tech, and fly around this huge space while also occasionally racing with your friends and performing deliveries. 3 per day to be precise. I'll start by saying that the broom controls feel really good, to the point where I would dare say that simply watching someone play like you are right now does not do it justice. You kinda have to feel it in your hands to get how natural the motor broom feels to handle. Plus, getting to explore this huge place while flying around gives me such a cozy feeling I kinda just wanna chill and ride around. Kinda makes me wonder why more games didn't try this kind of thing before. Besides the obvious driving, there is a storyline and a more narrative/dating sim aspect to the game. If I'm being honest, that part of the game didn't really leave any impression on me, good or bad. I feel like it's also important to mention that the game is still in early development, so a lot of the NPCs and animations can feel a bit rough at times. That said, I would say the core gameplay already feels really fun. Outside of that, I do have 2 requests for the devs should this video somehow make it to them. One is fixing this weird visual bug that was on my screen at all times. It looks like the outline of a dialogue bubble. The other is either implementing a minimap or letting the player open the map without having to stop driving completely. I mean, maybe that's actually intended and I was the one who didn't need to clear my deliveries as if I was in a time limit, but I guess it depends on whether this game will end up being on a cozier direction by letting the player do things at their own pace, or make deliveries a bigger focal point with stricter limits. Either way, Crescent County's release date is yet to be announced. What about a wholesome adventure game focused on meeting quirky neighbors and playing minigames? That is the premise of Danchi Days by Sandy Powder, Melos Hantani, Mogumu, and Gingham Games. You play as Hoshino, a girl trying to revive the summer festival her grandmother used to organize before getting Alzheimer's. She's also aided by the cute Kappa Moro-Q, who also lost his memory and seems to be an old friend of her grandmother. The game's main objective is to explore a danchi, a Japanese housing complex, while trying to find more attendees for the festival. That's when you meet Hoshino's neighbors, such as Krista Ripley, the puddle creator, Chathy, a lady with an infinite social battery, or Polly, the water fountain polisher. Opening new paths and finding new people to attend the festival typically involves playing a variety of minigames. You make mud balls in a puddle, knock back speech bubbles, and listen to the sounds your toilet pipes make. The minigames typically follow similar formats, with the player controlling Hoshino in a small board and having to achieve an objective within a certain number of steps. It's a simple concept, but its uses had such a different contextual flavor every time, I doubt they'll become boring in the full game. Danchi Days is an odd but wholesome adventure game, though the presence of Hoshino's grandmother does kinda tease the fact that this game will turn into a tearjerker at one point. So, I don't know, I think it's fair for me to give this warning, considering I tend to cry like a baby in pretty much any story involving Alzheimer's. This combination of weird and wholesome, combined with the cutesy art style, gives Danchi Days the feel of a kid's anime, even with several cutscenes that kinda look like episode title screens. So if you're looking for that kind of coziness, you should give this one a go. Danchi Days is set to release sometime in 2026. Who said that disco is dead? I mean, that's literally the title of the game. Dead as disco. I can feel you cringing from the other side of the screen, and it pleases me. Dead as Disco by Brain Jar Games is basically what would happen if you fused a beat 'em up and a music video, so a beat 'em up, if you will. Every punch, kick, and a glow stick bash is synced to the beat, which means you're always kicking ass in style. Also, don't question the glow sticks, they look cool and that's all I want from a game like this. That said, you're probably wondering why you're using your literal killer moves on people. Well, you play as Charlie Disco, a deceased drummer searching from his former bandmates, now called the Idols, to find out who betrayed and killed him. If I'm being honest, from the premise to the flashy combat and the look of the bosses, Dead as Disco has some big No More Heroes vibe to it. Minus the humor side, of course. The combat is a bit button mashy, but it's far from boring, especially when you're completely surrounded by a ton of enemies and can only target one at a time. The game's Steam page also boasts about a co-op mode and the ability to upload your own songs to use in the levels, which is always nice in rhythm action games if Crypt of the Necrodancer is any indication. I should also mention that while the game does use licensed music, there is apparently an original soundtrack for a more streamer-safe experience, which I honestly think is a must these days. Dead as Disco's release date is set to coming soon. Looking for an arcade experience? Do you like dinosaurs? Then Dino Quake by Neutronize might be for you. It's a game I found very reminiscent of Bubble Bobble, but instead of bubbles you use shockwaves to flip enemies upside down and then knock them over so they roll over other enemies. The more enemies you hit, the farther they roll and the more points you score. You also have your fair share of power-ups to help you clear screens, items to collect for extra points, big bosses to fight, and the occasional turnip to collect, with a bonus stage becoming accessible once you spell out the word turnip. Additionally, when you reach the end of each world, you get to choose where to go next instead of just continuing on a linear path. Different worlds have enemies with different behaviors, as well as hazards, so the arcade experience won't get old so quickly. So, take control of one of these colorful dinosaurs and go stop an alien invasion. Dino Quake is out now. Ever wanted to work at your own store? Organizing stocks, ordering new products, securing business deals, and working the cash register? Discounty by Crinkle Cut Games has all that and more. In the shopkeeping simulation game, you step into the small harbor town of Blomcast at the request of your aunt, all in order to manage the town's best, biggest, and only supermarket. You have to pay attention to the store's management, ordering new products and organizing everything from corporate to checkout. Every day at 8 AM the store opens and you have to work until 5 PM. After that, you're free to do whatever you want to. You also have to wander through the town finding new business partners and weird things happening in Blomcast. The game overall has a cozy atmosphere, and while I do wish you could walk around town a bit faster, I was curious to explore the place, especially the parts where the weird contamination thing is happening. Due to the premise and how the management works over the course of the days, this county seemed to me like the kind of game you'll basically be playing at your own pace, like Stardew Valley. So don't sweat it, just go to work, meet the locals, go back to sleep in your trailer, and don't ask questions about the noises coming from the strange shed in the backyard. This county's planned release date is August 21st, 2025. Oh, this one is for the fans of narrative adventures where choices matter, with a dash of strategy on top. Dispatch by Ad Hoc Studio is hands down one of my favorite games from the Next Fest. The game is described as a superhero workplace comedy, where, as the name implies, you be a dispatcher. The story revolves around Robert Robertson,
Tell me that's not your real bitch!
formerly the superhero Mecha Man. After his suit is destroyed in battle, Robert goes to work at a superhero dispatch center. The kicker, though, is that the team he assigns jobs to is not a team of heroes, but rather one composed entirely of ex-supervillains seeking rehabilitation. There are basically two sides to the gameplay. The first is the adventure game where your choices matter in every dialogue, determining how your relationships will progress with each character. The game is written by the minds behind Tales from the Borderlands and The Wolf Among Us, so you definitely find some elements in common here.
My auntie named me Roy, but people call me Roy. Alright, good to meet you, brah.
Likewise.
The other part of Dispatch's gameplay is about, well, working as a dispatcher. Your choices also matter, just in a different way. You have to respond to different emergencies, sending the appropriate heroes, villains, to deal with them according to each one's stats, such as their strength in combat and charisma. You also need to take their traits into account. They're like passive abilities that come into effect when certain conditions are met and have to be planned around. Things like working at a faster rate when dispatched alone, or spontaneously turning into a giant bat monster which swaps more mentally aligned stats with physical ones. Normal office stuff. Between both styles of gameplay, I'd say Dispatch is a very promising game in terms of story and the good old choices matter department. I know I'm certainly looking forward to seeing how things pan out for Mr. Robert Robertson. Dispatch will launch sometime in 2025. Sometimes it's good to play a game, especially a roguelike, that doesn't take itself too seriously in terms of premise. Dogwitch by Heckmouse is one such game. Dogwitch is a roguelike deck builder where you start by building your own spell-slinging pup from fur to chunk level, and then have to engage in turn-based battles against strange magical creatures, such as mushrooms and bees, triangles and living trees, tricycles, vacuum cleaners, and TVs. Every turn you roll the dice to determine your possible actions, with the dice being dependent on the equipment and spell cards you have accumulated. There are also two resources, mana and one charge, which you can use to your advantage in combat. After winning a certain number of fights, you have to face the boss of the area, and defeating it, you go to the next. Dogwitch is obviously very light on story, if it even has any at all, but it more than makes up for it with its turn-based gameplay, all the different playstyles you can have, such as ones focusing on spells with mana, others using more one charge to deal with direct damage with attacks, plus the summoning of familiars to aid you in battle and the use of status effects. Then there's the zany choice of enemies, which the Steam page promises will leave your tail wagging in disbelief. Dogwitch's release date is set to coming soon. Picture this. What if the character you played in an action RPG was fully aware that you were the one in control? That is the premise behind Downhill by Sisterhood Games. You control a girl called Fade, both literally and figuratively, as she leaves the temple she lives in to find a way to deal with the invasion of nightmarish beings known as Nixes. Both combat and exploration work by weaving through two different realms, the regular world and the night world, which Fate can access with your help to avoid obstacles and sneak past enemies. Just don't leave her there for too long or she'll start taking damage. Combat does have a bit of a Souls-like flavor to it. You can use crystals you find on your way to heal yourself, and there are two other collectibles you can get from enemies. Darkstain, which you get from dead Nixes and can be used to buy spellcasting charms from merchants, and Quintessence, obtained by sparing Nixes instead. Without spoiling too much, it looks like these decisions of fighting or sparing to get certain benefits will play a big part in the game. You, as in you the player, can also talk to Fate freely. Basically, the deal is that you exist as a sort of eldritch being in this world, and possessing Fate is what allowed her to survive the fight with the Nixes. On the other hand, you don't know much about her world, so you can just ask her. You can even directly tell Fate that her world is a game to you, which I find amusing, but would be absolutely terrifying from her perspective. I have to say, I really like this dynamic, and I'm really curious to see where the game goes with it. Downhill's release date is yet to be announced. So, there we go. Those are all the demos I played. Yes sir, there certainly weren't any more in my collections for the next fest, and I'm just kidding, there's so much more, you guys simply have no idea how many more there are. But I still wanted and needed to post a new video without taking several months. So here's a bit of a channel update to end this. What I've decided to do is split all of these demo videos into two, possibly 3 parts. I'll try to have the next one up as soon as possible, and then I'll upload the shorts clips, as people familiar with the channel probably know I do. After that's done, we'll hopefully return to regular programming. I already have my ideas for the next few essays, I just need to record some gameplay, and write the scripts, and edit, and do everything basically. Still, I have to say, it does feel refreshing to play a bunch of smaller games in a row like this. And in every Steam Next Fest I've covered, I always end up finding a lot of cool stuff I might not have paid much attention to otherwise. And yes, some of these are early builds, but letting a demo of your game loose in the wild means you get new feedback from players early on. And if your gameplay is just right, you can reach people's hearts even at the start of your project. I mean, I know that firsthand being a game developer and all. So I guess all that's left to say is that I really enjoyed looking at the games on this Steam Next Fest, that I hope all of you watching will have found a new game or two to look forward to, and of course, best of luck to any of the devs of these games, if this video somehow makes it to you. My name is Strig, and thank you for your patronage. If you're leaving already, please consider leaving a tip in the form of a comment and a like. And if you'd like to come back, don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell on your way out. Thank you for visiting Strig's Game Café.